Hello, everybody.
Oh, listen. Every week, I always like to listen how the hell everybody's going to come out.
Yeah. This week, my name's Tim Daniel. His name's Ben Brown, and welcome to this week's edition of Late Night Reds, part of the Riverfront Media Network and Blue Wire Pods. As you see today, we do have a guest who's joining us. We have our first ever Blue Wire cross promotion. As we're doing a little home and home, he's coming on our show, and I go on his show later in the week. If you are a Reds/Dodgers fan, I don't know you, but if you are curious about hearing about a good baseball team who wins a lot, this is your guy. You can check him out over at DodgerHeads on the Dodger Blue Network. This is Jeff Spiegel. Jeff, thanks for giving us a little bit of time before you go on your show today. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about the Dodgers and the season they're having so far. And I've already told you where we're going to start this conversation, but can you just explain to everybody how cool it is to get to see Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani play baseball every day?
Man. Yeah, it's very cool. First of all, thank you for having me. It's fun to do this. Always like doing the home and home, like you said, Tim. So excited to have you come on our show later this week. But yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. I try my hardest to explain to people that, I'm 35. I didn't see the Dodgers win a playoff game till I was 16. They didn't win a playoff series until a couple of years after. So believe it or not, there are some of us that I was born in 1988, right after Kirk Gibson hit the home run and won the World Series. So the first 16, 17 years of my life were not enjoyable times to be a Dodgers fan. And so I do not for a second take for granted that Mookie Betts and Clayton Kershaw and Shohei Ohtani and, Tyler Glasnow and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. There's lots of guys that I'm very
We get it.
Dodgers. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So it's a good deal to answer your question.
Yeah. I am also 35 and have seen the Reds. The last time the Reds won a playoff series was 1995 against the Dodgers. So yeah. Obviously when you kind of look at the Dodgers, I think this is kind of the thing where this series coming up is, I think the best way I could put it is if all the young Reds talent blossoms into who they're supposed to be, it's kind of like they're playing. It's like they're the Dodgers, right? Well, I don't know if anyone compares to Shohei Ohtani, but Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, Matt McClain, all these guys who are just super young, super talented, and you have the Dodgers who are the grown-up, mature version of those guys.
Yeah.
So it's I kind of feel like that's kind of where the team's parallels are. So when you kind of look as an outsider's perspective, I'm sure you don't, look at every Reds box score by any means, but do you have enough of a judgment that you can kind of give your thoughts on our team so far?
I mean, look, Ellie De La Cruz is one of those guys that sort of transcends an individual team. And you both know this. I'm sure everybody watching this show knows that. But he, I think, among the players is sort of a guy that can capture the imagination of people who aren't necessarily rooting for watching the Reds on a regular basis, just because he pops up in highlights and that kind of a thing. And so I think he's one of those guys and he's fun. I guess that's part of it too. There's guys on other team who are really good who I don't like, but Ellie De La Cruz isn't one of those guys. We've obviously seen him play the Dodgers and hit baseballs very, very hard and very, very far. Mm-hmm. And so he's just a fun guy. I don't like when he plays against the Dodgers because he always seems to hit very, very hard, very, very far home runs. But big picture, he is, he's a fun one.
Benjamin, any questions in?
Yeah. My biggest question is I know we talked about this just a second ago. I know you guys lost 2 out of 3 to the Padres, and we were having this funny conversation before we got on there, people are going to lose their minds, they don't understand. But I guess my question is why, what in your training and what you've seen with this team so far, outside of the fact that they have Mookie Betts and they have Shohei, what makes this team so special?
I think the stat that I saw last night, so this was before Sunday's game, was that the Dodgers had not allowed more than 4 runs in 18 straight. Sunday made it 19 straight. And the irony is, you guys started the show with, hey, what's it like to root for Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani? And the fact that they have, as a pitching staff, not allowed more than 4 runs in now 19 consecutive games is insane. Everybody, rightfully so, looks at we haven't even mentioned Freddie Freeman's name. We haven't even mentioned Will Smith's name.
Teoscar Hernandez.
Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy. Like, I mean, they go 1 through, there's like kind of the 1 through 3. And then I would include Will Smith in that group. And then you've got like, Teoscar and Max Muncy, who are both off to good starts. And the fact that like nobody's really paying attention to, they also have pitching. So this year, what Dodgers fans are most excited about is Tyler Glass now looks like a true bona fide ace. And if you believe in the health stuff, which we've had people come on and say, hey, he's actually like less of an injury risk than you would imagine, partly because understanding the surgeries he's had and when he had them and whatnot. Yamamoto, biggest contract ever given to a starting pitcher. He got crushed in Korea in his first game, and since then has like a sub-2 ERA. So I think it's those types of things that get people excited, is the fact that you can pair 2, maybe more, sort of ace quality pitchers, depending on what Bobby Miller becomes, depending on what Clayton Kershaw looks like when he gets back, with the top of the lineup that just feels like the number of times you're going to see Mookie, Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and then Will Smith all have an off night at the same time seems low. And so I just think it's that kind of combination that makes you feel like there's not a whole lot of ways that this team is going to lose consistently.
Yeah, the depth of that roster is insane, and that is an insane stat. Because giving up 4 or less runs in every baseball game means that you're going to be within every baseball game, regardless of what's going on. So that's just an insane stat. So
and good teams mixed in. Like that was Toronto was in that group, Arizona was in that group, the Braves were in that group, the Padres were in that group. So, yes, the Nationals were also in that group, but the Marlins were in that group. But for the most part, that's against good teams.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's cool to see. I kind of compare it to it's only like the Braves lineup and the Yankees lineup. Like your all's lineup, the Braves and the Yankees lineups are just incredibly versatile. Like you said,
I'd say the Orioles too.
Oh yeah, and the Orioles. Yeah, I would put the Orioles in there. But their lineups are just so versatile where, if a Mookie Betts goes 0 for 3, Freddie Freeman's not also going 0 for 3. Yeah. Shohei Ohtani's not also going 0 for 3. Will Smith, like you said, like there's so many different guys and so many integral parts of those lineups. Like it's incredible to watch. So I mean, unfortunately, we have to go in and try to win some games there here soon. But the Dodgers lineup is incredible.
Yeah, no, that's what's kind of like even Teoscar Hernandez. Like I didn't include him in that first list. He's 3rd in Major League Baseball in RBIs right now, and he's got 11 home runs. So it's like you just throw these guys in. You got Ohtani's got 11, Teoscar's got 11, Muncy's got 9, and that's not Mookie Betts or Will Smith or Freddie Freeman. So it's kind of and look, this team, uniquely because of what they did this offseason, I think like this has sort of been the experience of the Dodgers for the last 5 or 6 years, but it's like it feels like is what the team we're watching right now.
So you kind of mentioned when Elliot De La Cruz plays against the Dodgers, he hits baseballs really hard.
Yeah.
That's a common conversation. It's not just a Dodgers thing, just so we know. Last year, this was actually a really fun series when these two teams play each other. The Reds somehow got the better of the Dodgers last year, which was unreal to me, but it was like the Matt McClains and the Ellie De La Cruz and the Will Bensons were kind of having their moments. Obviously as a fan, you're like, God, that sucks to lose those games, especially the year before the Reds lost 100 games. But I'm sure there's probably a party that was like, man, all that young talent, like that's pretty impressive to watch.
It is fun. I mean, it is fun. Like as just somebody who follows baseball, I like seeing guys that are young and very, very good. And again, I'm a big, like, how do they play the game? And Ellie De La Cruz checks that box. Like he doesn't come across as arrogant. He doesn't come across as like super egotistical. He comes across as a guy who just loves playing baseball and happens to be very, very good at it. I like the fact that he kind of doesn't fit into a traditional box, being as big as he is, the position that he plays. So those are all just the checkpoints for me. And, I think that's one of the things that I love about, and obviously the Dodgers and Reds play each other consistently, but when the MLB changed the scheduling up a little bit so that you get to see every team every year and then less divisional games, I think like one of the wins is just getting to see more of guys like Ellie De La Cruz and his counterparts kind of across the league. So to your point, the you can appreciate what Ellie De La Cruz is doing. I just prefer to appreciate what he's doing when he isn't playing the Dodgers.
Sure. I feel the same way. Like
absolutely.
I say, like we had this conversation in our Patreon group recently about like our favorite non-Reds, and I was like, Mookie Betts is one of my 3 favorite non-Reds players in the world, and so I'm like, I hope he goes 0 for 12 this week, but every other week he can go 12 for 12, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
We actually had a question from one of our listeners. Maybe you can fill us in, from Sydney Price. She actually asked, how is the Dodgers bullpen at this point? I know there had been some injuries.
It's not great. It's not great. One of my predictions was that this would be like one of the strengths of the team. It has not materialized that way. It feels like, which I'm sure is a very common across the league occurrence, injuries everywhere. So like they started the season, Brusdar Graterol and Blake Treinen were 2 of the guys that you probably expected to be in the top 3 or 4 bullpen arms. Both of them were hurt. Graterol still hasn't pitched. Treinen just came back a week ago, but his coming back coincided with our closer, Evan Phillips, going to the injured list. So it just feels like musical chairs. I believe Ryan Brazier's on the injured list right now. So they're hodgepodging it together. And, you know, we've watched over the last few weeks as starting pitching, the Dodgers have actually gotten length from starting pitchers, which in 2024, I didn't know you were allowed to do that, but like Yamamoto, Glasnow, those are both guys that have given them, like, even Gavin Stone, a rookie, like they're giving them 6+ innings. And so, you know, I've joked that you can have a good bullpen, but if you overuse them, they will look like a bad one. Well, if you have a bad bullpen that barely ever has to pitch, they can look like a good one. I think that's where the Dodgers have been for the last week and a half or so. It's not that I trust all the guys out there necessarily, but if all these guys get to rest in between all of their appearances, at least you're going to get the best version of mediocre relievers.
So you've mentioned his name a couple of times. I just want to make sure I reiterate, as a Dodgers fan, you would probably much rather have Tyler Glasnow than 2 or 3 AAA starting pitchers, right?
Yeah, I'll be honest. This is when I have to wear a little bit. So the guy they traded away for Glasnow was Ryan Pepio, and Pepio was very good for the Dodgers last year. And I didn't know a ton about Glasnow. I just would go on his page and I'm like, this guy doesn't throw more than 70 innings in any game in any season. He had thrown like 120 innings over the last 3 years. He was in the final year of his contract. And I was excited about the prospect of getting Tyler Glasnow. It just felt like they had to take on Manuel Margot's contract. They had to give away another guy that was going to be sort of a outfield prospect type. Then they signed him to the extension, which says, okay, I feel better. So my point is, I kind of was not A++ on the trade initially. Then they signed him to the extension. I'm like, all right, I feel better about this because we're not just getting 1 year of the guy. And then we had an injury guy come on and talk through. Here's, you know, he probably is more healthy than you think because this, and this. So I came around on the Glasnow trade prior to seeing him pitch, and I look even stupider for my initial take based on how he has actually pitched for the Dodgers. So I will wear that one a little bit, albeit with a couple caveats of things that made me like it a little bit more than initially.
Absolutely. It was a joke because there were Reds fans who legitimately, like, they checked in on Glasnow, apparently it's a report, and they asked for Connor Phillips, and somebody else in Reds fans was like, I don't want to give up Connor Phillips for Tyler Glasnow. And Connor Phillips has an 8.30 ERA right now in AAA level. So
yeah,
just make sure.
But hey, you never know what he could be.
True.
Tim, you know?
True. All right. So before we get you out of here, because I know you got to go do your show, I just was wondering if we could just relive for a second, maybe the weirdest trade in baseball history in December of 2018.
Yeah.
Where the Cincinnati Reds traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers Homer Bailey's contract.
Yep.
And in return received Kyle Farmer.
Yeah.
Alex Wood, Yasiel Puig, and Matt Kemp. And if we could just have a quick analysis here of, I think all those guys combined for the two teams played 100 games. And I think Yasiel Puig had 80 of those.
I love Yasiel Puig. First of all, I want to say that it was time for him to go, sadly, but I love Yasiel Puig. I love that Homer Bailey was included in that trade. And it was like, all right, like, what the heck are the Dodgers doing? I think he sucked the year right before that trade, if I'm not mistaken.
He was pretty rough.
I'm trying to look up his numbers. But he actually was like, he kept pitching in Major League Baseball after that, which was kind of amazing to me. Like the Dodgers just were like, we don't actually want anything to do with him, and sent him packing. So, yeah, that was a weird one. I was trying to remember, did the Dodgers get anything else back in that trade?
Nope.
No.
Just strictly a salary dump, huh?
Yeah, because Kyle Farmer actually ended up playing for the Reds for a few years.
Yeah, he was nice. He had a big walk-off hit when he was a Dodger. And he like became, talk about funky. You guys like funky looking shortstops. He played some shortstop for you.
He didn't play some shortstop. He was their shortstop
He was there
for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeter Downs and Josiah Gray were also in the deal, which Josiah Gray is now the ace of the Nationals.
Yeah, wait. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I was like, the Dodgers, this trade was, with all due respect, we're on a show called Late Night Reds. Josiah Gray was the player that ended up getting traded for Max Scherzer, and Jeter Downs was the player that ended up getting traded. Jeter Downs was the top prospect in the Mookie Betts trade.
That's right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
The Dodgers took both of those guys, and they, within like 18 months, became top 100 prospects who were then traded in Blockbuster. So Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz, who was one of the best catching prospects in the league, those two guys got traded for Scherzer and Trey Turner. And then Jeter Downs was the headliner alongside one other guy from Mookie Betts. So that I was like, as you were saying this, I was like, I swear the Dodgers got like, because it felt like a salary dump, and then the Dodgers actually got back two guys that in classic kind of Dodgers fashion became hot, elite prospects. So
Yeah, because the
I
Reds,
like that trade. Just the short answer, Tim, is I love that trade.
because the Reds flipped, the Reds flipped Puig for he who must not be named, who later signed a contract with the Dodgers and then was never seen again. So
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, there were some like Matt Kemp. The problem was this was the classic trade from the outside that every Dodgers fan knew at the time before even the prospects. It was like, oh man, the Dodgers dumped like every one of these guys right before their career fell off of a cliff. Like it was like Kemp was on his last legs. Although Alex Wood's still in the league, so I guess there's about in Farmer, like you said, Farmer was a decent player for a while. So that's a funny trade to look back on.
yeah, it's a weird one. It's kind of like when Eric Davis was a Dodger. You're like, I don't like it.
No, it's weird. It's weird. Some guys aren't meant to be on other teams.
Yeah,
Nope.
I agree. Chris Heisey was a Dodger for a short time. That was a
That's
weird
true.
one.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we'll let you get ready for your show, man, which I'm really excited to be being a guest on later this week. But before we get you out of here, if any of our Reds fans want to interact with you for this Dodgers series, when Hunter Green obviously goes 8 innings of 1-run ball in Dodger Stadium, because he always pitches well there for some reason.
It's true. Hometown kid.
Yeah. Where can people reach out to you? Where can people touch base with you through the series and interact with you?
On Twitter, I'm at Jeff Spiegel. Name, you see it right there. Just throw it all together with no spaces, and I'm there. DodgerHeads is the name of our show. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, or DodgerBlue.com is kind of the website that we're tethered to. So if you search Dodger Blue 1958 on social media, you can find our site and on YouTube as well. So thanks for having me on. And like you said, Tim, I think you're coming on. We'll have a video that goes up Thursday morning right before this series starts. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it as well. Thanks again for doing this with me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jeff, man. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. That was Jeff Spiegel of Dodger Blue giving us a little insight. I know we're working a little backwards than we normally do, but I wanted to have Jeff on to kind of talk about a little fun things before we got to not fun things, because today.
Woof.
All right, all right, man. Let's just breathe for a minute. Let's get this out.
Yeah,
Chat.
go ahead.
Okay, so let's start with Friday, right? Oh, hey, they end the series, right? They end the losing streak. Stuart Fairchild inside the park home run. That was kind of cool.
That was kind of cool.
Terry Lee Friedel, we know him as TJ, had a nice big hit in that game as well. Yesterday they lose 4-1. Lodolo gives up a grand slam in the first inning, and then is awesome the rest of the time he's in there. By the way, last two starts, Nick Lodolo, 7 earned runs in the first inning.
Yeah,
Worried?
it's weird. Nah, I'm still not worried.
Me neither.
I think he's a good enough pitcher to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. And then of course today is the most maddening game of the year so far. So they start out 3-0, where the Dodgers pitcher is giving things away. Friedel gets hurt, hits a first pitch of the game. God, I hope that's not. Hearing inconclusive X-ray does not make me feel confident with this medical staff, with David Bell. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Which that's a conversation we're gonna have a little later as well. And then, Ellie flies out. Spencer Steer walks. Anyway, they get the bases loaded. Candelario has a huge hit. Which, how is that not a grand slam? Like, I still
no. How does it hit the top of the wall and not? What the heck?
Yeah, I mean, like, first off, he has no career grand slams in 50 plate appearances with the bases loaded. All right, so like, give my man his grand salami.
Yeah, I don't get that.
But like, yeah, like the clip there is like that looked like that looked like to me. I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously, but like Tommy Thrall, I'm listening on the radio when I'm cutting the grass, and he's like, "Yeah, by our angle, that's a grand slam."
Right.
And then I think Sadak said the same thing. He's like, "Yeah, he's like, well, we can see from the stadium." So, but whatever. The New York calls it in. It's not even like the Giants are like, yeah, look at that. It's like, are we sure? And they're like, I guess we're sure, which is
right.
typical replay in baseball.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I guess David Bell had a trip to Buffalo Wild Wings earlier in the day, so he had to leave the game early. Been there, my guy. Been there.
I was getting ready to say, sometimes when things hit at the wrong time.
Right. Hopefully it's something like that. It's not serious. Like, we don't definitely want anything serious. But so Freddie Benavidez, I guess, learns pretty quickly he's not a manager, because Frankie Montas gives him like 8 straight hits of like 100 miles an hour contact. He's like, just wear it, kid. Just wear it. And he has a good of 5 hits in an inning. They're losing all of a sudden.
Yep.
It's like, what the hell? All right, so you're at this point it's 5-3. And then they battle back. Mike Ford, Bill Ford Tough, hits a solo shot that's dead center in San Francisco.
Dead center, man. Crushed.
And then they get, all right. And we're like, all right, cool. We're doing this. And then Alexis Diaz gets to the ending. We go to extras. We have runners on second and third. Allie strikes out. And then Lucas Sims literally throws 2 sliders that the guy chases off the plate. And I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, I'm going to throw a fastball down the middle now.
Dude, you know how irritating that is? And I don't take to be a baseball player at all.
Same.
Like I played a little in high school, nothing crazy. But if a guy chases 2 sliders away and he's coming in to try to, he's only sitting on fastballs, dude. Like, that's all he's waiting for you to groove a fastball. That's all he's waiting for.
Yeah.
You saw it. If he's swinging at sliders like that aren't even close, that means, dude, I am swinging for my heels and I am looking for a fastball, and I pray to goodness he throws me one. And we're the only team. We're like, yeah, you know what? He chased 2 sliders. You know what? Let's go fastball hard at the flipping plate. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. I mean, throw it high, throw it low, ground a curve, do something. Don't throw a freaking meatball down the middle of the plate when the guy is trying to swing from his heels. Like, what are we doing? It doesn't even make any sense.
No sense at all. No sense at all, especially because San Francisco is really doing everything they possibly can to have the Reds win this game. Right?
Yep.
They are like putting it on a platter. Like,
yep.
You have your best hitter up, and Will Benson just walked and stole second base. You have runners on second and third. You hit a bloop. Ellie's on third base. You're up 7-5. Like,
yep.
And like, It doesn't matter if Emilio Pagan's getting the ball at that point. All he's got to do is get 3 outs.
Yep.
And it's like, they can't even do that. It's just so much like, and like when they battled back, like India had 3 hits today, and he gets a hit. Steer gets a hit, and it's like, okay, cool. Jake Fraley has an awesome at bat, and it's like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, this is the Reds that we remember. This is the fighting Cincinnati Reds, and it's like, nope.
It just falls short.
Yeah, dude, and it's just
falls
like
absolutely short.
So here's what we're looking at now to kind of just catch people up. 1-9 in their last 10. Losers of 10 of their last 11. And since they swept the Angels, are 0-5-1 because they tied the Phillies in a 4-game set on series. So this is where we're at now, right? Like, and I think what's really maddening about it is that it's not just the expectations. We talked about this last week when they had the first rough week. Like, yeah, the expectations hanging over your head are obviously something where like you expect more. And I don't think there's anything wrong with expecting more. What I'm mad about in this whole situation is when people were like, hey man, May's going to be really hard for you guys. Like, you guys are going to have to win as many games as you can in April because May's going to be tough. They were talking about when you play the darn Giants. All right. I mean, and like they weren't, it was like it was the series coming up. It was the Dodgers. It was the Dodgers like playing the Dodgers 7 games in 2 weeks. It was like that we just talked about. It was another matchup with the Padres. It was Arizona, who's not been as good as we all thought they were because they went to the NL pennant last year. But that series, like, were so many opportunities where like Arizona's like, here's the game, go win it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
there's no way they don't win it. Like and it's like 1-run games, I understand, are so fickle. Like anything can happen to those. And like last year they were so good, and then this year they're I think 1-7 now after today. It's just like it's great that they have chances to win these games, but how they're doing this stuff is just like really, really, really irritating because it's like the lack of discipline, the awful base running, the terrible defense. It's just like, where does this end? And the way they handle the whole CES thing where it's like, oh, he's fine. Came out of the US and he broke his wrist.
Yep.
Oh, he did do that. Yeah. Yep. It's like,
it's a, I don't know, man. I get this feeling of like, I don't feel like there's any security. Like you're going through a season like this and the expectations are already taught. Those guys are having an issue pulling it together, man. Like there's something that's not making it click like it's supposed to click. And I'm not sure what it is. Like, you know, and I know they're young and I know there's a whole bunch of different things and different aspects and different things that could, but something is not clicking the way it should be clicking. We are too good of a baseball team to make the errors that we make, to not be able to get clutch hits, to not be able to do different things, running the base pads correctly. We're way too good of a baseball team to have those things happen on a consistent basis and be 1-9 in our last 10 games. That should never happen. That should never happen.
You said something was missing. I can tell you what it is.
Listen. I know we talked about this last week. I mean, we did, and it almost is like it's almost so blaringly obvious that like it's almost like it's they're doing it out of spite. Like, we know we made a mistake, but we don't want to own up to the mistake. But we know we made a mistake. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
And I know you can think about whichever way you want to about bringing Votto back or doing whatever, but you can't tell me that not having that guy in your dugout with these young players in the lineup, like, you can't tell me that doesn't make a difference. Can't tell me that. I won't believe it.
So I think just kind of, that conversation. And I think the thing that really that jumps out to me when it comes to like our team compared to other teams, look, we just had Jeff on who talked a lot about the Dodgers, and it's like, Mookie Betts struggled for a little bit. He hasn't played the best defense. Guess what? Leads the league in just about every statistical, like, offensive statistic there for a little while. Shohei Ohtani had a huge dark cloud over his head for a couple of weeks. Do you remember it? No, because he's crushing baseballs. Atlanta. Oh man, we lost Spencer Strider for the year. That sucks. We're fine. We'll figure it out. There's none of that here. Like, it's like, oh, well, Matt McClain's out and Novi Marte got suspended and DJ Friedel hasn't played a lot of games. And it's like, yeah, we know. That's what, like, other teams figure it out. And they're like, you know how we can patch this up? Santiago Espinal, Mike Ford, Stuart Fairchild. That's how we're going to patch this up. Like, dude, there was a game, was it yesterday? Mike Ford's hitting third, and he gets pinch hit for Stuart Fairchild.
Yep.
Third the order.
Yep. Yeah.
This team went from Joey Votto's and Ken Griffey Jr.'s and Eric Davis's and Barry Larkins hitting third in the order to Mike Ford and Stuart Fairchild. All right? Like, and forgive me for not being my super happy-go-lucky self right now, but just seeing how this team fumbled the bag here is just really, really irritating. And it's just not, obviously no one's having fun with how they're playing. I'm not saying that I'm calling this team dead in the water because they're still pretty talented, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully this Friedel thing is just nothing more than a bruise on the wrist, and we have him back Wednesday in LA or something. I mean, a
Yeah.
Wednesday in Arizona or something. By the way, the Diamondbacks, you're going to see a couple of those guys for the second time now because of the way the rotations. You're going to see Jordan Montgomery, you're going to see Slade Sassoni again. So hopefully you have a little bit better performance than you did last time. All right. Well, let's kind of get to some individual players here.
Yeah.
And the Cyber Chamber Candelaria, who is playing better.
Yeah.
Playing better this month. So after today, 286, 310, 429, a homer and 3 RBI after a brutal April of 190, 286, and 354. 354 slugging, just so we're clear.
He must listen to the show.
Yeah. Still apparently not a big fan of taking walks. Still abysmal at first base. You can say what you want about these Elliott throws, and there's some bad ones. Yeah. But a rational, good first baseman who can scoop probably saves him like 3 or 4 errors.
Yeah.
But it's been nice. Obviously, that hit today was huge. Should have been a grand slam. We're having a different conversation right now if it is. And that was awesome. But I think really when you kind of look at for him, it's not to the point where like I feel great about the contract. But for a team who's needing a spark, and I feel like last couple of games they've hit the ball pretty well. They've cost themselves a lot of runs, but it's nice to kind of see him kind of picking up. Hopefully this stride keeps kind of going forward and hopefully they get someone else who can play first base on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last week that in order for us to get better, he's got to be better because he's supposed to be the guy that's supposed to fill that spot and fill that void. As far as giving him the big contract and being able to have a guy in your lineup that's supposed to be consistent. He's supposed to be that guy. So hopefully this is the start of a turning point. Hopefully he starts to play better, and do the things that we were expecting him to do. But he's still not playing great, but I mean, it's better than what it was. So hopefully, like you said, the trajectory is going upwards, and he becomes a leader in this lineup like he's supposed to when you give a guy that much money and tell him you're the guy.
So Scott asked a really good question here. Do we actually overestimate the ability of this team? At what point did we have 10 players batting under 200? I think the thing that we talked about to this offseason, I think this is a great question, is what if the sophomore slump kicks in for more than one guy? And we kind of saw that, right? Like, well, I guess really the biggest sophomore slump's been Benson. I just think we expected to get more out of Stevenson in India. And Stevenson had that stretch where he was like the king of like loud outs that Spencer Steer kind of rode for a little while. Seems like Steer's kind of coming into full form. And what you're seeing from Ellie De La Cruz right now is like, that is as Chad wrote it recently, it's the Ellie experience. There's going to be weeks where he looks unbelievable. There's going to be weeks where he looks bad until he kind of puts it all together. But we know what he's going to look like when he puts it all together. And that's very exciting. So maybe we did. I think that, but also Scott, I don't know if they really gave us an opportunity to feel good about what they left us with. I mean, look, we said it forever. Like they need a right-handed hitting outfielder. And their answer was like, well, we'll just put Spencer Steer in left field. And I think he's been fine for it not being his natural position. Not good, not great, not bad, just fine. But I think that they just kind of aren't giving us a lot to like be excited about. Like I said, like Santiago Espinal, it's great you can get a guy like that in spring training, and he had 2 hits today. Like he was probably robbed on his strikeout there in extra innings. But also like, is that a guy that you're like excited he's on the team that you're relying on to like go get big hits for you in extra innings? Like, do you feel good there? I wouldn't say I do. Like I lived through Wilson Valdez already. I don't want to have to live through it again, but we are.
Yeah. I think that question is a good question. I think that's warranted. I think the expectations were so high because we know that the talent is there. And you lose 2 guys that you think are going to be stalwarts in your lineup with McLean and Noelle Marte. You lose those 2 guys. But like you said, Tim, we should have enough talent to weather the storm, and we don't. Like you said, like Stuart Fairchild shouldn't be coming up in big situations to try to get hits. Mike Ford should never be batting third in your lineup. Like,
especially considering a week ago you didn't even want to sign him.
Yeah, you refused to sign him a week ago, and then all of a sudden now you need him. You're like, oh yeah, we'll just bring this guy in and bat him third. Like the stuff on the expectations is that we got a bunch of young, talented kids that are really good at baseball, but our roster built, if you go from top to bottom, our roster building ability is not great. Like we don't have that. You know what I mean? Like we don't have that. We have a few guys. The young guys are very talented. They've done the thing, but as far as like depth wise, like dude, we are really hurting in depth. Like we don't have a whole lot of depth. So I think you make a good point about, management forgot to seal our depth. They were high on the guys that we had, which we were too, but our depth is not great.
Yeah, I agree. Bob pops in. What up, Bob? Says we need JDB.
Oh.
Scott says Joey's been on the IL with Buffalo since April 7th. That's fine then. You can get him for really cheap at this point because he's not hurting the Toronto system. Maybe we'll throw him like a 13th reliever in single A like we did for Espinal. But I'm with you, man. And I think that when having Ciarnelli is fantastic, but someone's got to help those guys out. And it's like, I think Stuart Fairchild's a fantastic defender. We've seen it all year. Like he's a great, same with Luke Maley. Like Luke Maley's a tremendous catcher behind the plate. And we're big Luke Maley fans.
Absolutely.
We're also realistic that that guy should not be getting as many at-bats as he is. And I understand Tyler needs a day off and things like that on occasion, but I'm not sitting here talking like Tyler Stevenson's been setting the world on fire. But if you look at things right now, it's like, are the Atlanta Braves going to put Stuart Fairchild up in a must-hit situation?
Correct.
Shit, are the Miami Marlins going to put Stuart Fairchild up right now in a must-hit situation? Like,
I think that's what the frustrating is like those teams. You look at those top-tier teams. We just talked about this. Your Atlantas, your Baltimores, your LAs, your New Yorks, you know what I mean? Your San Diegos, like those guys have rosters built to where they have some depth where you can put guys in a spot where they're going to have success. We do not have that depth. We don't have that depth to be able to say, okay, well, if so-and-so is having a bad game or this guy's having a bad game, like we can't afford to have Steer, Ellie, or Steer, Ellie. I'll say just those two. We can't afford for those two to have any kind of slump.
I mean, the White Sox did just take 2 or 3 from the Guardians, the first place Guardians this league. Yeah,
they sure did.
Go
ahead. I got you.
Yeah, go ahead and finish up.
But we just can't afford to have those guys have bad weeks. Like we just don't have the depth to be able to overcome that. So it's becoming what it is.
Yeah. So Bob asked this question. This is a good one. The Brewers and the Reds are comparable markets. Why have the Brewers figured out and are consistently good, but the Reds can't figure it out? This is my $1 million question every year. Like I compared the Brewers to the Pacers. By the way, nice win today.
Big win, baby.
In the sense that they don't have a banner to hang, but they're always good. They're always competitive. They always find good players. They always develop really well. And I think that's kind of what has they just have a great philosophy that works. And we're going to get to this whole conversation here in a little bit. That might be the theme of the show with a slide. We have a couple slides, but I think when you kind of look at the two, it's I think their identity is just better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know what I mean? How many times did a pitcher come through the Brewer system and we were like, that guy's terrible? We've had some guys who aren't so great, but they've done pretty well with that situation, right? And the moves they've made, I can't tell. The guys they get in trades, it's very rare they make a bad trade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like very rare. Where like, when it's like they lose a guy, they go and find like immediately someone who could like. Remember Eric Thames there just like killing the Reds.
Yep. Just
Like
yep.
it's just always guys like that where the Reds just don't ever get those guys. It's the guy that's like maybe he can hit one between short and third and get on first base and like we feel good there.
No, I think the biggest thing between the Reds and the Brewers, it's the expectations, right? Like it's the those guys expect to win. Those guys expect to compete, and then they hold on to veteran leaders like Kristen Yelich, like guys that have been a part of that winning culture, guys who have been a part of what the expectations are. And I think that I think somewhere along the way, Cincinnati has lost the sight of what does it take to develop that culture. And a lot of that is leadership. I mean, and I'm not here to knock David Bell, but what has he done to develop a winning culture? Like, and I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not here to knock him, but I'm like, and it's not his fault. Sometimes it's what's built around you to be able to develop that winning culture. Yeah, you have some good young players, but we already talked about it. You don't have any depth. Your bullpen is okay, not great. You've got a couple starters that are good, not great. They're starting to get there, but it's developing that winning attitude. And a lot of that is just leadership based. And that's the difference between, like you said, between a team like the Pacers front office that consistently believes that, like, we may not win championships, but we consistently believe in putting a good product on the floor, developing our guys, developing our roster, having a guy that's a leader that can lead guys to doing things the way things should be done, comparatively speaking to like a Charlotte Hornets. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like, you got good talent. You got Lonzo Ball, or not Lonzo Ball. You got I forget his name, but you got the Ball brother,
LaMelo,
and you got LaMelo. Yeah, you've got LaMelo Ball. You've got these guys there, but what do they know about winning? They don't. You know what I mean? So it's all about putting the key guys in place, and all that starts with the top, with your leadership. And I'm not here to knock David Bell, but what has he done and what has he won in order to portray that kind of winning mentality, consistency, and striving for that excellence that everybody is shooting for?
Yeah, agreed. Which we're gonna have a full conversation about that, guys. So, Scott, I saw your comments. I will show them when we get to that point in the show. Just want to kind of touch on a couple things real quick. TJ Friedel came back. Hopefully, he stays back. Please. Please. Because I know like the numbers weren't great, but you could definitely tell the lineup looked better with him in it.
Yes, absolutely.
I went to the Wednesday game, and so they're down 4-2 in the ninth. He gets a big hit, makes it 4-3. They have the tying run on third. They can't bring him home. Not TJ's fault. You know what I mean?
No.
Friday, when they need a win, they're begging for a win. He like runs that ball and gets to second base. So hopefully, it sounded like at first it was like, they're like, oh yeah, that's good news. And then everyone on Twitter's like, that's just news. That's just news.
Yeah.
So, and then it comes out the x-rays were, so these guys is getting the second option in Arizona. Hopefully everything's all right. Yeah. So should we bring up this week's edition of Ellie is Awesome?
Yep. Let's do it.
I'm going to get a jingle for this. I promise, guys.
We do need a jingle for Ellie is Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Ellie is Awesome this week. We're going to start with going Oppo Field in San Fran on Saturday. Opposite field at GBP and opposite field at Oracle Park. Two totally different things, man. Like,
absolutely.
That was pretty impressive. I know he didn't have the best day to play today. I know he struck out with a chance to win the game. And again, that is the Ellie experience. So we're going to live with it. But 6 stolen bases in this week's games. Man, like multiple times he steals second and third in the same plate appearance.
Yep.
Keep doing you, Ellie De La Cruz. Keep doing you.
And I hope people don't get caught up in. I hope they don't get caught up in some of the throwing errors and some of the things that he's done that have been kind of costly. I hope they don't get caught up in that and realize when he reaches his peak level of play, how phenomenal this young man's going to be. He's still figuring it out. So hopefully people are like, they don't get frustrated with it because he is going to be an incredible baseball player.
Yep. There are people getting frustrated with it. They're just wrong.
Yeah, you're not right. They're not right about it. He will be fine. He will figure it out. And once he figures it out and you see his true form, you'll be like, wow, I'm glad we didn't give up on that guy because he's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. Julio Rodriguez has had some pretty rough stretches in his big league career. Going through one right now.
Yeah.
Ronald Acuna had a year where he hit 258.
Yep.
He's hitting 260 right now. Like,
yep.
Baseball's hard. He's going to be fine.
Baseball's really hard, but he's really talented.
Yeah. There was a stretch when people wanted to give up on Bryce Harper being a good baseball player, by the way. And he's got 2 MVPs. So
pretty good. He's a pretty good player.
He's pretty good at baseball, especially when he plays the Reds, apparently. All right. So let's get into it because we've kind of touched on it a little bit now, but I kind of want to get into an honest assessment of David Bell for this year. And I think Scott brings up these points. There's only so much I'll blame Bell for ultimately because these players have a job to do and they're not doing it. But is Bell too passive a leader to lead this team and stick a boot in their asses? And that's a great question. So the reason I wanted to do this is because I think that having this conversation is a fine one because I don't think that he deserves to be fired for this season. I'm not trying to be like that. Like I saw Nate kind of talk about it recently. Like, are we at the point where they need a fresh start? And it's not him. I'd probably fire at this point. It's probably, I'm not going to talk about who I want to see lose their jobs. That's not the case here, but I don't know if that's what it is. But do you think the Reds are a time of playing like a team that's their manager's about to get fired? They sure do. Yeah. They sure do. And I think that a lot of that's not his fault. We just went through a bunch of guys getting way too many at-bats because that is what the manager has been handed to him. Also, obviously dealing with all the injuries he had to deal with through the year. But my irritation with him is how he's talking about all this. So the other night when they have like the last loss in the losing streak, the second to last loss in the losing streak, he goes and he talks to the meeting. He's like, yeah, obviously everyone's frustrated we're losing, but like our guys are doing great. It's like, doing great? Like, but my guy, they've lost 6 in a row.
Yeah.
And then today, as I'm cutting the grass, they had 3 times yesterday in San Francisco. They got thrown out second base, trying to stretch a single to a double. Yeah. And I understand the identity is to be aggressive on the base path. I have no issue with that. But he goes out there and he's like, yeah, they just had a bunch of doubles taken away from me. He's like, if they had just stopped at first, I'd have been mad at them. First time, I can see that. Second time, lenient. Third time, no, stay. Like, you guys have not been able to advance through when something's hit the right field. Let's just save a base runner here and try to make something happen. I think that with him, and like I'm not anti David Bell. I'm not here to say like fire him and like kick him out and drive him to Lunkin. But I'm just really like realistically trying to see like where the vibes are and like where is he to blame? Is it his fault Stuart Fairchild's hitting third in the order sometimes? Yes. Is he like really rough at reporting injuries? Yes. Christian's fine, guys. It's it's just kind of a ricochet off his wrist. 2 weeks later, broken.
And this one's hard for me because I don't feel like I don't want anybody to lose their job. Like I'm not saying that, but it's an old phrase, right? Attitude reflects leadership. Like, and that's part of David Bell. Sometimes being a leader, you have to do things that people don't like. And you have to do things that the players don't like. And I'm not saying that they're not going out there and getting extra ground balls. They're not taking BP. They're not. I know they're doing all that stuff. But sometimes too, when you're the leader of a franchise, like it's difficult because you're not the one there doing that, but you also have the control of different things that you can control. So I want to be mad at David Bell. I really do.
I do too, but I'm like,
I want to be mad at him, but you can only make a meal with the ingredients you're given. Honestly, like you said, Mike Ford batted third for us the other day. Like you can only do what you can do. You only have control of what you can control. And I want to be mad at David Bell, but in the other senses, like I can't. You can only do so much of what you got. And he can't control certain things. I mean, he can switch lineups up, he can do different things, but he's done all that. Like it's not like he hasn't switched things around, he hasn't tried to move things around. It does drive me crazy that he's so nonchalant and passive. Like that kind of pisses me off a little bit.
Yeah, it really.
Because if my team had lost 9, if my team's lost 9 of the last 10, dude, I'm flipping desk. Like, I mean, and I granted he's trying to be even keel and not be that guy, but like there are certain things that happen in these games where they're close games that are the difference between winning and losing. And those are the things that frustrate you as a leader and a manager. Like for you to be like, oh, well, I like them being aggressive on base pads. Yes, but what you don't understand is that you cost yourself potentially 3 runs being that aggressive. And if that's going to be your style, that's great. You got to live with the consequences. But at some point, you got to say, all right, let's get guys on base so we can score runs, knowing that we have struggled to score runs.
Yeah.
So it does bother me a little bit that he is so passive about a lot of things, and that it doesn't seem like he gets a lot. I'm not saying that he doesn't get upset, but I'm like, dude, I guess I want more fire. Like, just
I want the guy who gets ejected all the time. Like,
that's Go kick some dirt on the plate. Go do, you know what I mean? Go, yell in an umpire's face. Go whatever you got to do. Have you ever seen basketball coaches after they got in technicals and how their teams respond?
Where's the David Bell that like almost fought Clint Hurdle? Like, where's that guy?
Like sometimes your teams need that to get them sometimes your teams need that to know that you're in the fight with them still. You've seen it plenty of times where your good guys like your Popovich is in the NBA, they go and get technicals.
Oh, Scott. That is funny.
But like you always see it like in the NBA, guys like, yeah, I got a technical, fire the guys up, blah blah blah, and it just makes a difference. But I guess it bothers me that he's so like just nonchalant about it. I'm not saying that he doesn't get fired up in the locker room, and maybe that's just the way he is. Maybe he's just a composed guy, but I don't know. If I've lost 9 out of the last 10, dude, those press conferences will go a little different with me, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is Cincinnati, Ohio. Like, how many years of Marvin Lewis do we sit through like if we just had something break our way here and we'd be fine. It just didn't work out for us today. Or like his player has a terrible penalty on the sideline. He's just like, come on, guys, come on. Like we're living this again, folks. We're living this again. Again, not blaming him because you can only do so much. But there is definitely things where like, and I do miss like over ridiculous amount of ejections a year, David Bell. Maybe he's just trying to save his paycheck. I don't know.
Which he could be. I mean, he's close to retirement age. So I mean, maybe he's trying to save up and be able to push his retirement a little bit.
Yeah, like his comments in Lodolo yesterday, I thought were fine. When he was like, look, he's like one bad pitch and he gives up a grand slam, but like the rest of the game, he was really good. Like, yeah, you're right. But when he was like, if they just stay at first, I'm gonna be mad. Like and I'm all for make the defense make plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of those 3 guys that got thrown out second base yesterday, like Jake Fraley's pretty fast. But like it wasn't like, I mean, like Will Benson should be sometimes doesn't look as fast as he is.
Yeah.
But like Jimmer Candelario, like no, like dude, that thing bounced off the wall. It's rolling towards the infield. You stay at first base, all right? Like we will figure out a way to get you around the bags. Like
yeah.
I
don't know. And everybody's going to have an opinion about it. And I mean, and this is just our opinions. I mean, because people are going to disagree, and that's fine. I mean, it kind of is what it is. But, sometimes when you're so nonchalant about different things, like, and I know those guys are professional athletes, they're paid to do a job, but they're also human, dude. Like,
right.
They're also human. They're also guys that need to be motivated. They got to find a reason. And people will say, well, they make millions of dollars. Why don't they? But dude, they're human beings.
Oh, I hate
Human
that so
beings
much.
need motivation. Yeah, money only motivates you so much. And you're like, there's got to be a reason. Now, I know that winning should be the reason, but sometimes, dude, it takes somebody getting in you a little bit to be like, all right, let's go. Let's get it going. And that could be happening behind the scenes. It just doesn't seem like David Bell's demeanor when I see him in public. It doesn't seem like he's that kind of guy. But I could be wrong.
Man, I'm getting so much like I had a Coke Zero for the first time in forever today, and it's just like sitting in my throat today. I hate it. Drive me crazy.
Man,
So
nothing like a good cold Coke Zero though.
right, man, cut the grass and you broke one of those on, man. I'm with you. Pat says David Bell knows all about runs. No one's confirmed this, all right? Like I was goofing around. Like
no, that's funny. He had to run to the border. Thank you, Pat. I needed that.
Yeah, we did. Let's talk about some other cool things. So Rhett Lauder debuted in Double-A yesterday for Chattanooga.
Oh yeah,
looked pretty good until like
he did look good.
Game got away from him at the end, but I expect that in your first start when you move to a new level. Very excited for the future for Rhett Lauder. I know Paul Skeens debuted for Pittsburgh yesterday, and a lot of people were talking about that, but I laughed really hard at the like thing where they're like, Phenom Paul Skeens. It's like 4 innings, 3 runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. I'm like, if he's a phenom, then Hunter Green is Randy Johnson, because I see him do that once a month.
Yeah, all the time, all the time. I'll cheer for Paul Skeens when he gets traded to the Yankees.
Yeah, like watching him pitch, and it's like it was very impressive because it's seeing like seeing his talent. But you're like, man, I can't wait to see how the Pirates mess this up in 4 years. Somehow he'll probably sign through arbitration.
Yep,
and then it's going to be a mess from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Rhett Lauder, it really stoked. When I was talking to Nick Kern the other day, we kind of talked a little bit about like some of the talent in the minor league system, and we kind of talked about Rhett Lauder, and I was like, I was goofing around. I was like, do you really think that? I was like, have you guys made a locker yet for Rhett Lauder in Louisville? And he's like, I can't speak on that. And he's like, but I would be shocked if he doesn't pitch for them this year at some point. So really excited. But
I wouldn't be shocked either. I mean,
I suspect
the way he's moving, dude. Yeah.
And some of the starting pitching they're not getting there has not been great. Yeah. Connor Phillips has really struggled. Nick kind of mentioned that. If you already listened to the interview, I'm sorry if I'm just echoing what was said in that. But one of the things he kind of said was like he's having a lot of these like 4 1/3 where the ball's just getting away from him. He's walking too many guys. His pitch count's getting up there, and reliever comes in and just so happens to give up a blooper that has runners on second and third kind of thing. So, I think Rhett will definitely be pitching in Louisville pretty soon. Yep. All right, so let's look at the series before we get to. We're gonna end this on a high note tonight, guys. I promise. I know the last couple weeks have kicked our butts, but we have some fun things. We're gonna end this on a high note. We're gonna start though with Arizona. So we get round 2 at the Diamondbacks after last week, and you get a couple of rematches. You get Graham Ashcraft against Jordan Montgomery, who I think Graham had really good moments in that start, and then had some moments where the game got away from him. So usual. We got Hunter Green again going against Slade Sassoni, and that was Hunter's worst start in a month and a half, and he was okay. He wasn't bad. He wasn't great. So I feel pretty good where he's at. And then you have Andrew Abbott going against the funniest freaking name of a guy, because how do you say it correctly? Brandon? Like, how do you say it? Yeah, how do you say that? Like,
Fad. Oh, I bet the T is silent. The P and the T are silent, so I bet it's Brandon Fod.
Brandon Fod. We're way off, I'm sure, and someone will correct us.
I bet the P, or it's Pafada.
Pafada. Yeah. I think Baseball Reference. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up his Baseball Reference page because now I'm curious, because they always put the pronunciations on there. All right, this is high quality television here. All right, take your time. No, they don't have his pronunciation on there. What the hell? Oh, he's from Louisville. He went to Bellarmine.
Is he really?
He went to Trinity.
Okay.
He pitched at Trinity.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
Oh, it does here. It's Braden Pfaadt.
Oh, yeah. So it's FOD.
Would have never guessed that looking at that.
The P and the T are silent.
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
Yeah. So get a couple wins here before you go to LA. I do kind of like our pitching in the Dodger series.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about that. If you can get a couple wins here, maybe Hunter Green continues his like Dodger Stadium luck this weekend and just pitches really well there again.
Yeah.
His favorite player is
nice.
Jackie Robinson, so he always like, yes, we know, chat. We saw, okay? It's fought. We saw. I'm kidding, guys. I love you. It's just been a rough couple weeks. So, all right. So, yeah, get some couple wins in Arizona before you go to LA. And so next week we can have a more fun show. But
absolutely.
It's Mother's Day, man. Like, our wives have been fantastic people at raising our kids.
Yep.
We couldn't be more thankful for them and our moms and everything they did for us.
Yep.
And people do what we're doing. So I had to first say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, whether you're listening to the show or not. But I also wanted to make sure we had a fun Reds memory. The Mother's Day miracle, Joey Votto's home run day in 2012. Yeah. There are so many things about this game that are just mind-blowing. Extended rain delay.
Mm-hmm.
It's Bryce Harper's first series of GABP because he was with the Nationals at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at this picture, it is hilarious who was all in it. All right, so
I know.
Follow or we got Mike Costanzo here on the right.
I was going to say.
Keep that one for your immaculate grid. We got Ryan Ludwig right here behind Devin Mesoraco.
Wow.
Here behind Jay Bruce, you can see the leopard skin hair of Wilson Valdez.
Holy cow.
You've got Matt Latos, which, whatever. Chris Heisey.
I see Heisey.
Mike Leake right here on the right to Costanzo. But that game, I remember. So, I was working retail at the time, so I didn't get to watch the whole thing. So I get the notification on my phone, it's home run the first inning. I'm like, all right, cool. I think he had 4 hits that day. One of them was a double.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that. And then he hits another home run later in the game. And I get home for the 9th inning. And so I see them load the bases. I see Joey come up. And I was like, well, he's in a grand slam. It's just going to happen. And sure enough, man, it's one of my favorite Reds games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest freaking experiences. I was at the game the night before. I missed this one. So I was really bummed about that. But want to just kind of, anyone else have any fond memories of this or any time Joey Votto did cool things? Because we can talk about that.
That's funny. Yeah, that was a cool game. As a matter of fact, I might have been at the house. We usually have a dinner. We usually do a grill out, which we did one today. But we usually do a grill out for my wife and my mother-in-law. And yeah, I might have been going back. I might have been going back and forth between there and the grill and watching that game. And Votto was incredible. That was a fun one.
I still stand by. If he doesn't get hurt, he wins the MVP that year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because he was better than he was in 2010 of the century. Man, just so freaking good. I was at his debut last year with my brother. You were at Brandon Pfaadt's debut? Pfaadt. What a name. Well, they better fought till the end and beat him on Wednesday. You better kick me out of here for my dad jokes start going in. All right. Well, we're going to go and wrap up this week's edition of the show. Thanks as always, for hanging out. And of course, thanks for Jeff for hanging out with us and giving us a lot of insight to the Dodgers for the Reds play them this coming up for this series. I know you got to get to Arizona first, but by the way, Gino Suarez, why you? Could have been anyone else on your team to kick our butt.
Anybody else, man. Anybody else.
Gosh, jerk. Just kidding. Still love you. As always, make sure you check out everything going on here on the Riverfront, whether it's the Riverfront Red Show with Chad and Nate and their crew of people filling in. We've got Red Leg Roundtable with Seth Shaner. Just confirmed a really big guest I cannot wait to share with you. Happy birthday, by the way, to Seth Shaner.
Yeah, happy birthday, Seth.
And then, of course, you can check out Riverfront U. I have a great interview that's going up the same day this is going up on the podcast feeds with Miami, Ohio head basketball coach Travis Steele. Me and Jack Mueller caught up with him, talking about his camps. And Miami, Ohio is going to be pretty fun in basketball this year. Like,
They are,
really,
man.
really
They've had some big signings.
Yeah, really.
He's done a great job.
And then, of course, can't go on without mentioning July 6th, 12 o'clock, Smoke Justice. Come hang with your boys, drink some bourbon, eat some brisket, talk some baseball. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we will be there. If you're checking us out for the first time on YouTube, please make sure you give us a nice solid subscription, like this video, get us in that algorithm, and of course, check us out on whatever podcast app of choice you listen to, whether it's Spotify, Apple, whatever of them are left over. There's a lot of them. I don't know. We connect all of them, but and of course, shout out to our Blue Wire fam. So thank you guys for everything. But on behalf of Ben Brown, this is Tim Daniel. Let's just get through it, guys. We're gonna get back on track. It's coming.
Go Reds.
Have a good night, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.